She thought it was just a simple act of kindness, but little did she know that moment would change her life forever. The rain fell in relentless sheets, drumming against the cracked pavement of Elmwood Avenue. Streetlights flickered, their weak glow barely cutting through the misty darkness. It was past 11, and Riverside Diner was supposed to be closing. But for Naomi Brooks, closing time never meant turning someone away. Naomi wiped down the counter, her chestnut-brown skin damp with sweat after a grueling 12-hour shift. Her tired eyes caught sight of a small figure outside, huddled beneath the neon glow of the diner's sign. A boy in a battered wheelchair, rainwater pooling beneath his wheels, his dark hair plastered to his forehead. Instinct overrode exhaustion. Naomi grabbed a clean towel and pushed the door open, shivering as the cold wind slapped against her face. "Hey, sweetie," she called, her voice warm despite the chill. She crouched beside the boy, her eyes soft with concern. "What are you doing out here all alone?" The boy looked up, his wide blue eyes uncertain. "I'm waiting for my dad," he mumbled, his voice barely above a whisper. Naomi glanced up and down the empty street. The rain distorted everything, turning headlights into streaks of light and leaving shadows dancing along the sidewalk. No sign of anyone. Waiting out here in this storm. "No way," Naomi smiled, trying to put him at ease. "Come on, sweetheart, let's get you inside. It's warm, and I've got something special for you." The boy hesitated, then nodded. Naomi gently grabbed the handles of his wheelchair, pushing him into the warmth of the diner. The smell of fresh coffee and buttered toast wrapped around them like a blanket. She guided him to a cozy booth near the radiator, quickly draping the towel over his shoulders. "I'm Naomi," she introduced herself, a gentle smile on her lips. "What's your name?" "Alex," the boy whispered, his small fingers gripping the frayed edges of the towel. "That's a strong name," Naomi grinned. "Are you hungry?" Alex nodded, and Naomi's smile widened. She didn't wait for him to say more. In a few swift motions, she pulled out a fresh loaf of sourdough, slicing it with practiced ease. Minutes later, she returned with a steaming grilled cheese sandwich, golden and crisp, paired with a warm bowl of tomato soup. "This is for you, Alex. My grandma always said a warm meal can fix almost anything." Alex's blue eyes widened, and he took a bite, the cheese stretching in long, gooey strings. "This is the best thing I've ever had," he murmured, his voice carrying a hint of wonder. Naomi chuckled, watching him eat. Good food makes everything better. But as Alex ate, Naomi's smile faltered. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. A boy this young shouldn't be alone in the rain, waiting for someone who hadn't shown up. Across the street, beneath the shadow of a sleek black car, another pair of eyes watched the scene unfold. Victor Harrington leaned back in the leather seat of his Bentley, his sharp grey eyes fixed on the glowing diner. He had told Alex to wait there just for a few minutes while he took an important call. But those minutes had stretched into almost an hour. Victor's jaw tightened. He hadn't expected someone like Naomi to step in. In his world, kindness was a commodity, a transaction with an expected return. But this woman, a waitress in a rundown diner, had helped his son without knowing who he was, without expecting anything in return. Inside the diner, Naomi wiped the soup from Alex's chin with a gentle touch, her laughter warm and genuine. Victor's gaze hardened. He reached for his phone, his voice low but firm. "Sophie, get down to Riverside Diner. No suits, no heels. I want to know everything about the woman who just fed my son." Naomi had no idea she was being watched. All she saw was a little boy with a smile too rare for someone his age. As the rain tapped against the diner's windows, she leaned down to Alex's level. "You're going to be okay, sweetheart. Your dad will be here soon." But in her chest, a strange tightness grew. Why would someone leave their child alone like this? Where was his father? Was he really coming back? Suddenly, the diner door swung open, a rush of cold air sweeping in. A woman in a dark hoodie stepped inside, her sharp eyes locking onto Alex. Naomi straightened, her guard instinctively rising. "Hey, champ." "Time to go," the woman said, her voice too smooth, too rehearsed. Alex's face shifted, a flicker of fear in his eyes. Are you here for my dad?" "Yes," the woman lied, her tone never faltering. "Your dad sent me." But Naomi wasn't buying it. Years of serving strangers, reading faces, and surviving tough neighborhoods had given her a keen instinct, and this woman's story didn't sit right. Naomi stepped between them, her voice calm but firm. "I'm sorry, but who are you?" The woman's smile never reached her eyes. "I'm his aunt. Now come on, Alex." Naomi turned to the boy. "Is that true, sweetheart? Do you know her?" Alex hesitated, fingers tightening around his damp blanket. She says she's here for my dad." Naomi's heart pounded. She knew she was stepping into something bigger than herself. But she couldn't turn away. "Well, I'm going to make sure he's safe," she declared, her voice unwavering. "No one takes him until I know for sure." Across the street, Victor watched from the shadows, his grip tightening on the steering wheel. Naomi's defiance, her unwavering courage, it wasn't just kindness. It was something else. Something that could change everything. And as the rain continued to fall, a storm much bigger than the weather was beginning to take shape. Naomi Brooks watched as the woman in the dark hoodie leaned closer, her forced smile never quite reaching her sharp eyes. Rain tapped against the diner's windows, the world outside a curtain of grey. But inside, warmth radiated from the old radiator, and the smell of grilled cheese still lingered in the air. Naomi's instincts screamed at her. This didn't feel right. "Look, lady," Naomi said, crossing her arms, her voice steady. "I don't know who you are, but Alex here doesn't look so sure. So how about you take a step back and tell me who you really are?" The woman's smile faltered, just for a second. Then it returned, sharper this time. "I'm his aunt." "His dad sent me?" "Really?" Naomi leaned down, her eyes softening as she met Alex's nervous gaze. "Sweetheart, are you sure you know her?" Alex hesitated, his small fingers gripping the frayed edges of the blanket Naomi had given him. His voice was barely a whisper. She said she knows my dad." Naomi's jaw clenched. She wasn't going to let this stranger take the boy without knowing the truth. "Well, I'm sorry, but until his dad shows up, he stays right here with me." The woman's smile vanished, replaced by a cold, calculating glare. "You don't understand who you're messing with." "Oh, I understand just fine," Naomi shot back, her voice like steel. "I understand that I'm not letting some stranger walk out of here with this boy, so unless you can prove who you are, you can see yourself out." Silence settled like thick fog, the only sound the steady patter of rain outside. Alex looked between them, his blue eyes wide with fear. The woman's expression darkened, but then she forced a tight smile. "Fine, I'll be back," she snapped, spinning on her heel and pushing through the diner door, rain swallowing her figure as she disappeared into the night. Naomi let out a slow breath, trying to calm the pounding in her chest. "It's okay, sweetie," she whispered, crouching beside Alex. "You're safe here with me." Was she really my aunt?" Alex asked, his voice trembling. Naomi shook her head, her tone gentle but firm. "No, sweetheart. I don't think she was." Across the street, hidden in the shadows of a sleek black Bentley, Victor Harrington watched it all. His grey eyes were sharp, following every movement. He saw the tension, the way Naomi stood her ground, the way she refused to be intimidated. He had expected her to back down, to look the other way like most people did, but she didn't. Victor's phone buzzed, and he answered it without looking away from the diner. "Sophie," he spoke, his voice low and measured. "I'm here," Sophie Graham replied, her voice clear. "I saw the woman. I couldn't stop her, but I got her license plate. I'm running it now." "Good," Victor murmured. "And Naomi Brooks?" "I'm digging into her background now," Sophie confirmed. "Waitress at Riverside Diner. No criminal record. Lives in a small apartment on Elmwood Avenue. Single. Struggling, but clean." Victor leaned back, his fingers tapping lightly on the leather steering wheel. "She's more than just a waitress. Make sure we know everything." "Yes, sir." The line went dead, but Victor's gaze never left the diner. He watched as Naomi sat down across from Alex, gently pushing the rest of the grilled cheese toward him. "Eat up, sweetheart," she said, her voice soft, motherly. "You must be starving." Alex took another small bite, but his hands were still shaking. Naomi reached over, covering his tiny hands with hers. "You're safe now, I promise." Victor's jaw tightened. Naomi's kindness, it was so genuine. So unlike the world he knew, a world of deals, contracts, and transactions. No one did anything without expecting something in return. But this woman? She gave without a second thought. Inside the diner, Naomi glanced at the rain-streaked window, a chill crawling down her spine. Something about that woman didn't just feel off, it felt dangerous. And yet, she had no idea just how dangerous this night was about to become. "Naomi?" Alex's small voice broke the silence. "Yeah, sweetheart. Do you think my dad will really come back?" Naomi's heart twisted. She forced a smile. "Of course he will. And until he does, you've got me. And I'm not going anywhere." But Naomi's words barely masked her own doubts. Where was Alex's father? What kind of man left a child alone in the rain? And who was that woman pretending to be his aunt? As if in answer to her unspoken questions, the diner door swung open again. But this time, it wasn't the strange woman. It was a tall man, sharply dressed, his dark coat still wet from the rain. His grey eyes locked onto Naomi's immediately, a storm of emotions hidden behind them. Naomi straightened, instinctively placing herself between the man and Alex. "Naomi Brooks?" His voice was calm, but there was a command beneath it, an authority she couldn't ignore. "Who's asking?" she replied, her guard instantly up. "Victor Harrington," the man said, his voice like ice. "I'm Alex's father." A rush of relief washed over Alex's face, but Naomi wasn't so quick to trust. Her eyes narrowed. "Prove it." Victor's lips twitched, a hint of something like amusement flickering across his face. "Alex," he called, his tone softening, and the boy's face lit up. "Dad!" Alex's small voice was full of joy and relief, but Naomi's shoulders remained tense. "There was a woman here before. She said she was his aunt." Victor's expression darkened, the warmth vanishing in an instant. "She wasn't," he stated firmly, his voice hard. "And I will deal with her." Naomi watched him carefully, still not entirely trusting. Alex was out there alone. In the rain. Scared. Victor's eyes met hers, sharp and unyielding. And you helped him. Thank you. Naomi's lips parted, the words catching in her throat. You're welcome. Victor's gaze lingered on her for a moment longer, something unreadable passing through his expression. Then he stepped forward, gently lifting Alex from the wheelchair, wrapping him in a warm, protective embrace. I'm taking him home now, Victor said, his tone soft for the boy, but still guarded for Naomi. As he carried Alex toward the door, Naomi felt a strange emptiness fill the diner. Just like that, her quiet night had been turned upside down. But as Victor disappeared into the rain with Alex, Naomi didn't realize that this was only the beginning, that her life was about to change in ways she could never imagine. Naomi Brooks stood behind the counter of the Riverside Diner, her hands absently wiping down the faded surface. The steady hum of the neon sign outside was a constant companion, casting a soft, flickering glow across the empty booths. Rain continued to beat against the windows, relentless and cold, but inside, the air was warm, the scent of buttered toast and freshly brewed coffee lingering. But Naomi's mind was far from the familiar comfort of her small, cluttered diner. Her thoughts were tangled, replaying the events of the night like a broken record. The strange woman, with the forced smile, the way she had tried to take Alex. The sudden arrival of Victor Harrington, Alex's father, and the way he had looked at her, a mix of gratitude and something unreadable. Who was he really? And who was that woman pretending to be Alex's aunt? Naomi leaned against the counter, her fingers pressing into the damp cloth she was holding. She had seen enough in her life to know when something didn't add up. And this felt like a puzzle, with pieces that didn't quite fit. Her eyes drifted to the spot where Alex had sat just hours ago, his small hands wrapped around the warm mug of cocoa she had given him. He had been so fragile, so quiet, but the relief in his eyes when he saw his father had been real. That was one thing Naomi was sure of. Alex loved his father, but the look in Victor's eyes, that was harder to read. She was still lost in thought when the bell above the door chimed and Naomi's heart skipped a beat. But it wasn't Victor. It was Sophie Graham, a woman Naomi had never seen before, a striking woman with a sharp, poised appearance, blonde hair tied neatly back, her dark coat pristine, despite the rain. "Good evening," Sophie greeted, her voice smooth, almost too polite. "You must be Naomi Brooks." Naomi's fingers tightened around the cloth. "Who's asking?" Sophie's smile didn't falter. "My name is Sophie Graham. I work with Mr. Harrington." Naomi felt a chill run down her spine. The same Mr. Harrington who left his son in the rain. Sophie's smile faded, her expression becoming serious. "Yes, and I'm here because of what you did tonight. You protected Alex." "You stood your ground?" Naomi's jaw tightened. "Yeah, well, someone had to. That woman who showed up, she was lying. I don't know who she was, but I wasn't about to hand over a kid to a stranger." "That was the right call," Sophie said, her gaze never leaving Naomi's. "But it also means you've gotten involved in something much bigger than you realize." Naomi's pulse quickened. "What's that supposed to mean?" Sophie stepped closer, her voice lowering. "Mr. Harrington is a powerful man, Ms. Brooks. And people around him, they don't always have the best intentions." Naomi's chest tightened. "So what? I'm in danger now because I helped a kid?" "Not necessarily," Sophie replied, though her voice wasn't as confident as Naomi hoped. But Mr. Harrington is a man who believes in debts, and tonight you did something he won't forget. Naomi crossed her arms, trying to hide the unease gnawing at her. I didn't do it for him. I did it for Alex. That boy needed help. Sophie's expression softened slightly. And that's exactly why Mr. Harrington wants to speak with you. Speak with me? Naomi's voice was sharper than she intended. Why? To thank me? To buy me off? Sophie smiled, but there was a hint of something else, something that felt like warning. He doesn't see it that way. He sees it as an opportunity. Opportunity? Naomi laughed, shaking her head. Lady, I'm a waitress. I don't need his opportunities. I just want to live my life, work my shifts, and pay my bills. Sophie didn't flinch. And what if I told you he can offer you a lot more than that? Naomi's laughter faded. She studied Sophie's calm, composed face. Like what? Like security, Sophie answered, her voice steady. Like making sure you never have to worry about your bills again? Like making sure you never have to stand behind that counter wondering if you'll make rent this month? Naomi's throat tightened. And what does he want in return? Sophie's gaze held hers, unwavering. A chance to repay a debt. And maybe a chance for you to be a part of something bigger. The words hung in the air, heavy and strange. Naomi shook her head, stepping back. Look, I don't know what game you're playing, but I'm not interested. I don't need some rich guy's charity. Sophie sighed, pulling a sleek black card from her coat pocket. Take this. Think about it. If you change your mind, call me. Naomi didn't reach for the card, but Sophie set it on the counter anyway, her sharp blue eyes lingering on Naomi's for a moment before she turned and walked out into the rain. The bell above the door chimed again, and Naomi stood there, staring at the card, a simple, elegant rectangle of black with silver lettering. Sophie Graham, Personal Advisor, Harrington Enterprises. Naomi's fingers brushed against the card's cold surface, and a wave of confusion and frustration washed over her. This wasn't how her life was supposed to be. She was supposed to finish her shift, go home, pay her bills, and keep her head down. But tonight, everything had changed. Naomi turned, shoving the card into her apron pocket. The rain outside seemed louder now, pounding against the windows like a restless heartbeat. And as she stood alone in the empty diner, Naomi couldn't shake the feeling that she had just stepped into a story she didn't fully understand, one that was far from over. Naomi Brooks tried to shake off the encounter with Sophie Graham, but it clung to her thoughts like the rain that refused to let up outside. As she wiped down the tables at the Riverside Diner, the sleek black card in her pocket felt like a weight pressing against her. Harrington Enterprises. Victor Harrington. A name she had only known in whispers, stories of a billionaire whose wealth seemed as vast as his influence. A man who could make or break lives with a single decision. And somehow, she was now tangled in his world. The bell above the door chimed, and Naomi instinctively turned, a warm smile already on her face. But it wasn't a customer. It was her best friend, Clara Johnson, her thick curls damp from the rain, her wide grin lighting up the dim diner. "Hey, girl," Clara called, shaking off her umbrella. "Surprised you're still here. It's pouring out there like the world's ending." Naomi chuckled, but it felt hollow. "Yeah, tell me about it." Clara's smile faded slightly as she stepped closer, her sharp eyes catching the tension in Naomi's expression. "What's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost." Naomi hesitated, But this was Clara, her best friend since high school, the one person she could always count on. She pulled the sleek black card from her pocket and slid it across the counter. Clara picked it up, her eyes widening as she read the silver letters. Harrington Enterprises? Naomi? What the… It's a long story, Naomi sighed, leaning against the counter. Remember that kid I told you about? The one I helped last night? Turns out his dad is Victor Harrington. Clara's jaw dropped. The billionaire, Victor Harrington. The guy with his name on half the buildings in this city? That's the one, Naomi replied, brushing a strand of her dark hair behind her ear. And his assistant came in here tonight, Sophie Graham. She said he wants to talk to me. Clara stared at her, then burst out laughing. Girl, are you serious? This sounds like something out of a movie. The poor waitress with a heart of gold catches the attention of a billionaire. Next thing you know, you'll be living in a mansion. Naomi shook her head. It's not funny, Clara. I don't know what he wants. I didn't do anything special. I just helped a kid who looked like he needed it. And that's exactly why you're special, Clara insisted, her voice softening. Most people would have just walked by, but not you. You've always been the one to help, even when you barely had enough for yourself. Naomi's gaze fell to the scuffed tile floor. But now I'm in over my head. What if this is some kind of trap? What if he's angry? What if he thinks I overstepped? Clara's expression softened, and she reached across the counter to squeeze Naomi's hand. Hey, you didn't do anything wrong. You helped a kid. No one can fault you for that. And if this Harrington guy can't see that, then that's his problem. Naomi managed a small smile. I wish I had your confidence. Girl, you've got more strength than you know, Clara replied. You just forget it sometimes. Naomi exhaled, her shoulders easing slightly. I guess. But what do I do? Do I call this Sophie woman back? Do I just ignore it? Clara's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. Well, let's look at it this way. If he wanted to cause trouble, he wouldn't have sent someone to talk to you. He would have just made it happen. But he sent someone. That means he's curious, or maybe even grateful. Grateful? Naomi scoffed. I doubt it. Men like him don't get grateful. They get even. Clara's smile returned. Well, then maybe it's time you remind him that you're not someone to mess with. If you do decide to talk to him, you walk in there with your head high. Don't let them intimidate you. Naomi's fingers brushed against the black card again, the cold, smooth surface, a strange contrast to the warmth of Clara's touch. I don't know, Clara. What if I say the wrong thing? What if I make things worse? Then you make things worse, Clara said with a shrug. But at least you'll be you. And if he can't handle that, then he's not worth your time. Naomi smiled, a genuine one this time. I don't know what I'd do without you. Starve, probably, Clara teased, grabbing a piece of the leftover apple pie from the counter. Speaking of which, you gonna eat this? Naomi laughed, the sound finally chasing away some of the fear twisting in her chest. Help yourself. Clara grinned, taking a big bite. Seriously though, Naomi, I think you should hear him out. Just be careful. I will, Naomi promised, though her voice was softer, her gaze drifting back to the card. Clara's phone buzzed, and she glanced at it, her expression shifting. Ugh, my brother needs a ride. Rain's messed up the buses again, but promise me you'll text me the second you decide what to do. I will. Thanks, Clara. Clara leaned over the counter, giving Naomi a quick hug. You've got this, girl. Don't forget it. And with that, she was gone, the bell above the door chiming as she stepped back into the storm. Naomi stood there for a long moment, the quiet settling around her like a blanket. She turned the black card over in her hand, the silver letters catching the light. Her reflection stared back at her in the glass of the diner window, tired, a little worn, but still standing. Maybe Clara was right. Maybe she did have more strength than she realized. Taking a deep breath, Naomi slipped the card back into her pocket, her decision still hanging in the balance. But she knew one thing for sure. Her life was about to change. Whether she was ready or not. Naomi Brooks stared at her reflection in the foggy bathroom mirror, her fingers gripping the edges of the porcelain sink. The cracked tiles and flickering overhead light of her tiny apartment's bathroom seemed to close in around her. Her heart raced with a mix of fear and uncertainty. She had done it. She had actually called Sophie Graham. The woman's voice on the other end had been polite but direct, arranging a meeting with Victor Harrington himself. A car would pick Naomi up tomorrow morning, she had said, and bring her to Harrington Enterprises. No other details were given. Naomi's mind was a storm of doubts. Why did a billionaire want to meet her? Would he be angry that she had approached his son? Or was there something else at play? Would he even remember who she was? A gentle knock at the bathroom door snapped her out of her thoughts. Naomi, you okay in there? Clara's voice was warm and steady, a comforting anchor. Naomi forced a breath, her fingers finally releasing their grip on the sink. Yeah, just a little nervous. Well, you should be, Clara teased lightly. You're about to meet a billionaire. That's not exactly your typical Tuesday. Naomi opened the door, and Clara's face softened immediately at the sight of her friend's pale expression. Hey, come on. You've got this. Just be yourself. Naomi let out a shaky laugh. Be myself. Right, because that's always worked so well. Stop it, Clara scolded, gently tugging Naomi toward the small living room. You're strong. You're smart. And you're the kindest person I know. If this Harrington guy has any sense, he'll see that. Naomi tried to smile, but the knot in her stomach wouldn't loosen. But what if he's mad? What if he thinks I crossed a line by talking to his son? Mad, Clara laughed, shaking her head. Girl, you helped his son when nobody else did. If he's mad about that, then he's the problem, not you. Naomi sank onto the threadbare couch, the springs creaking beneath her. I don't know what to say to him. I've never even met anyone like him. I don't know how to act around someone that powerful. Clara perched on the arm of the couch, crossing her arms. You don't have to act. You just have to be honest. You did a good thing, Naomi. That's the truth. Just tell him that. Naomi's gaze drifted to the window, rain streaking down the glass like silver threads. It doesn't make sense. Why would he want to meet me? Why would he care? Because maybe, Clara said softly, not everything is about money and power. Maybe he saw something in you, something that can't be bought. Naomi's eyes welled with tears, and she quickly brushed them away. I'm scared, Clara. I don't want to make a fool of myself. You won't, Clara promised, squeezing her shoulder. And if you do, I'll be here with ice cream and bad rom-coms to make it all better. Naomi managed a real laugh this time. You always know what to say. I'm your best friend, it's my job, Clara said, grinning. Now come on. Let's figure out what you're wearing tomorrow. No offense, but this, she gestured to Naomi's faded jeans and oversized sweatshirt. probably isn't going to cut it. Naomi glanced down at her clothes, a sheepish smile tugging at her lips. Yeah, you might be right. Clara dragged her into the bedroom, throwing open the tiny closet. Most of Naomi's clothes were thrift store finds, a mix of worn-out blouses and jeans. Nothing close to what she imagined a billionaire's office would expect. Clara's brow furrowed. We'll have to make this work. Do you still have that navy blouse I lent you? It's in the drawer, I think, Naomi replied, rummaging through her things. But it's a little wrinkled. Not for long, Clara declared, grabbing the old iron from the corner. I'll fix it. And these black pants perfect? They're a little snug, but they look great on you. Naomi shook her head, a hint of a smile breaking through her nerves. I don't know what I'd do without you. Probably show up to meet a billionaire in your pajamas, Clara teased, carefully ironing the blouse. But I won't let that happen. The two of them worked together, and soon Naomi's outfit was ready, a navy blouse, neatly pressed, tucked into the black slacks that actually made her look a little taller, a little more confident. Clara even pulled out her own silver necklace, a simple but elegant touch. Okay, now look at you, Clara declared, stepping back to admire her. You look strong. Capable, like someone who knows her worth. Naomi stared at her reflection in the small, cracked mirror. She barely recognized herself. But the longer she looked, the more she started to believe Clara's words. Thank you, she whispered, turning to her friend. Really? Clara hugged her tightly. You've got this, Naomi. And no matter what happens tomorrow, you're going to be okay. Naomi's smile wavered, but she nodded. I hope so. That night, as she lay in bed, Naomi's mind raced. She imagined walking into a massive glass office, facing Victor Harrington, a man whose name alone could change her entire life. What would he say? What would he want? Would this be an opportunity? Or a mistake? She tried to quiet her thoughts, forcing herself to focus on Clara's words. Be yourself. Be honest. Remember who you are. And as she finally drifted into a restless sleep, one thought repeated in her mind. Everything was about to change, whether she was ready or not. The grand lobby of Harrington Enterprises was even more intimidating than Naomi Brooks had imagined. Towering glass walls reflected the bustling city outside, while sleek marble floors stretched beneath the soft glow of crystal chandeliers. Business professionals moved with a sense of purpose, their crisp suits and confident strides making Naomi feel even more out of place. Her palms were damp, clutching the strap of her worn leather purse like a lifeline. The neatly pressed navy blouse Clara had insisted she wear suddenly felt too tight around her shoulders. Her heart hammered against her chest as she stepped toward the reception desk, where a perfectly groomed woman with a flawless smile glanced up. Good morning, the receptionist greeted, her voice smooth and polite. How can I help you? I have an appointment with Mr. Harrington, Naomi managed, her voice a little too soft. She cleared her throat, trying to sound more confident. Victor Harrington. The receptionist's polite smile didn't waver, but her expression shifted slightly, a subtle hint of surprise. May I have your name? Naomi Brooks. One moment, please. The receptionist's fingers danced over her keyboard, and within seconds, her smile returned, even brighter this time. Yes, Miss Brooks, Mr. Harrington is expecting you. Please take the elevator to the top floor. Someone will be waiting to escort you. Naomi murmured a quick thank you, but as she turned toward the elevators, her nerves twisted even tighter. The top floor. Of course, the world of glass offices, boardrooms, and people who made decisions that could change lives with a signature. The elevator doors slid open with a soft chime, and she stepped inside, feeling the quiet hum of the machinery as it carried her upward. Her reflection stared back at her in the polished metal wall, her neatly brushed curls, the simple silver necklace Clara had lent her, the faint hint of fear in her dark eyes. As the numbers climbed higher, she tried to calm her racing thoughts. This was just a meeting, just a conversation. She hadn't done anything wrong. If anything, she had done something kind. But that didn't stop the fear. Finally, the doors opened with a gentle chime, revealing a quiet, sunlit hallway lined with abstract art. A tall, well-dressed man with silver hair and a sharp, attentive expression waited just outside. He smiled politely. "Miss Brooks?" he asked, his voice measured but not unkind. "Yes," Naomi replied, stepping out of the elevator. "Welcome. My name is Robert, Mr. Harrington's assistant. Please follow me." He turned, leading her down the hallway, his stride smooth and practiced. Naomi followed, her pulse quickening with each step. They passed glass-walled conference rooms where people in tailored suits discussed important-looking documents. They passed a lounge area with plush leather chairs and a view of the city skyline. Everything about this place was a reminder of the distance between her world and this one. Finally, Robert stopped in front of a set of tall, polished wooden doors. He opened them with a gentle push. "Mr. Harrington is ready to see you." Naomi stepped inside, her breath catching at the sight of the office. It was a vast open space filled with warm light streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows. The view stretched over the entire city, skyscrapers rising like steel giants against the morning sky. The air smelled faintly of rich leather and fresh flowers. And there, behind a sleek glass desk, stood Victor Harrington. He was taller than she remembered, his silver-streaked dark hair perfectly in place, his sharp grey eyes fixed on her with a calm, assessing gaze. He wore a tailored charcoal suit, but his expression was unreadable. "Miss Brooks," he greeted, his voice smooth, but there was a subtle weight to it, like a question waiting to be answered. Naomi swallowed, stepping forward. "Mr. Harrington, thank you for agreeing to see me. Please, have a seat." He gestured to the plush chair across from his desk. Naomi settled into it, her fingers instinctively tightening around the strap of her purse. Victor remained standing for a moment, studying her. "You're probably wondering why I wanted to speak with you." "Yes," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. He moved around his desk, taking his seat, but his gaze never left her. "I understand you met my son, Oliver." Naomi's stomach twisted. "Yes, sir. At the hospital. He seemed upset, and I just wanted to help." Victor leaned back slightly, his expression softening just a fraction. "And you did, more than you know." There was a brief silence, and Naomi's mind raced. What did that mean? Was this a test? Did she somehow offend him? Or was there something more? "Miss Brooks," Victor continued, his tone measured, "not many people would have done what you did, especially not for a stranger. But you did, without hesitation. That's rare." Naomi shifted nervously. "It wasn't... I just did what anyone would have done." A faint smile touched his lips. "I assure you, that is not true. I've spent most of my life surrounded by people who look out only for themselves. So when I hear about someone who acted with genuine kindness, it stands out." Naomi didn't know what to say, Compliments weren't something she was used to hearing, especially not from someone so powerful. Victor leaned forward slightly, resting his hands on the desk. "Tell me about yourself, Miss Brooks. Who are you? What do you want?" Naomi's mouth went dry. Who was she? What did she want? Those were questions she asked herself every day, but she never imagined having to answer them in front of someone like him. I'm just a waitress," she began, her voice wavering slightly. "I work at a small diner. I don't have much, but I try to help where I can. I didn't want your son to feel alone." Victor's gaze softened. "And you didn't. He spoke about you quite a lot." Naomi's heart skipped. "He did?" "Yes." Victor leaned back. "And I believe that your kindness should be rewarded." Naomi blinked, completely caught off guard. "Rewarded?" Victor's expression became more serious. "I don't believe in empty gratitude, Miss Brooks. I believe in actions, in opportunities." He gestured toward the city, beyond the glass. "This world can be cruel. It can be unforgiving. But it can also be changed. People like you, people who still see goodness in others, are rare. And I'd like to give you a chance to do more with that." Naomi's chest tightened, disbelief and hope swirling within her. "What do you mean?" Victor's calm gaze never wavered. "A position here at Harrington Enterprises, a chance to use that kindness, that empathy, to help others. You have something this place desperately needs, a heart. And I believe in giving good people a chance." Naomi's mind raced, 1,000 thoughts colliding. A chance? Here. But why? Victor's voice was steady. "Think about it. I won't pressure you. But sometimes, one small act can change everything." Naomi sat there, her world tilting on its axis, trying to breathe in the impossible moment that had just become her reality. Naomi Brooks couldn't believe she was actually standing here, just outside the entrance of Harrington Enterprises, a company she never imagined stepping foot in, much less working for. The towering glass building loomed above her, reflecting the blue sky and bustling city below. She glanced at her reflection in the glass door, her neatly pressed blouse, her clean but slightly worn shoes, and her tightly braided hair that Clara had helped her style that morning. She looked as prepared as she ever would be, but inside, her heart raced. It had been 2 days since her surreal meeting with Victor Harrington. 2 days of sleepless nights, staring at the card he had given her, wondering if this was all a mistake, if she was in over her head. But Clara's words echoed in her mind. "Don't let fear decide for you. You have a chance. Take it." And so here she was, her pulse pounding in her ears as she stepped forward, the glass doors sliding open with a soft whoosh. The lobby was just as she remembered, grand, bustling, and filled with the kind of confidence she had always watched from a distance but never dared to join. Polished marble floors stretched beneath the glow of crystal chandeliers, and sharp-dressed professionals moved with purpose, each seemingly belonging to a world Naomi had only ever glimpsed. But now, she wasn't just passing by. She was here. She was part of this. "Good morning, Miss Brooks." The voice pulled her from her thoughts. Naomi turned to see Robert, the silver-haired assistant who had first escorted her to Victor's office. His polite smile hadn't changed. "Mr. Harrington is expecting you. Please follow me." Naomi nodded, trying to steady her breathing as she followed Robert through the sleek corridors. Each step seemed to echo louder in her ears, and she fought the urge to fidget with the strap of her bag. This was real. She wasn't dreaming. but that also meant she could fail. They stepped into the glass-walled elevator, the cityscape stretching out behind them. Naomi's reflection wavered in the mirrored panels, her own nervous eyes staring back at her. Robert glanced at her with a hint of understanding. "First days can be overwhelming," he said, his tone calm. "But you're here for a reason." I hope I'm not wasting his time," Naomi admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "Trust me, Miss Brooks," Robert replied with a slight smile. "Mr. Harrington doesn't waste his time. If you're here, it's because he sees something in you." The elevator chimed softly, the doors sliding open to reveal the top floor an expanse of glass, sunlight, and luxury. Naomi stepped out, her gaze sweeping across the vast, elegant space. It was a world apart from the bustling diner she had known, from the cramped apartment she shared with Clara. But she forced herself to stand a little straighter. Robert led her through a hallway lined with abstract art, finally stopping before a set of double doors. He knocked once, then pushed them open, gesturing for Naomi to step inside. Victor Harrington was there, standing by the expansive window that offered a panoramic view of the city. He turned at the sound of the door, his sharp, silver-streaked hair catching the light. "Miss Brooks?" he greeted, a faint smile on his lips. "Punctual. I appreciate that. Thank you for this opportunity, Mr. Harrington," Naomi managed, forcing her voice to stay steady. "Please have a seat." He gestured to a pair of leather chairs near a glass coffee table, and Naomi sank into one, trying not to fidget. Victor settled across from her, his keen eyes studying her. "You're probably wondering what exactly you'll be doing here." "Yes, sir," Naomi admitted, trying to mask the anxious knot in her stomach. "You will be assisting me directly," Victor explained, "but not just with schedules and paperwork. I want you to help me understand people, the way they think, the way they feel. Your kindness is your greatest strength, and that is something this company needs." Naomi blinked, caught off guard. "But I'm just a waitress. I don't have any experience with business or..." "Experience can be taught, but integrity, empathy, those are rare," Victor interrupted, his tone firm. "I don't need another strategist with a polished resume. I need someone who can see the human side of every situation, someone who isn't blinded by greed or ambition." Naomi stared at him, trying to process his words. Was this real? Was this powerful man genuinely telling her that she mattered not just as an employee, but as a person? "I've watched too many people lose their way in pursuit of success," Victor continued, his voice quieter now, almost reflective. "They forget who they are. But you? I don't think you ever will." Naomi's throat tightened. She had spent so much of her life feeling unseen, forgotten, just another face in a crowd. And now, here she was, being told that her kindness, the very thing she had been told would get her nowhere, was the reason she was here. Victor leaned forward, his gaze steady. "You will learn the business. You will make mistakes, and you will grow. But you will never have to pretend to be someone you're not. That is my promise to you." A surge of emotion welled in Naomi's chest, but she fought to keep it in check. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice trembling just slightly. Victor's faint smile returned. "I have a feeling you'll surprise even yourself, Miss Brooks." Before she could respond, the door opened, and Robert stepped in. "Mr. Harrington, the board meeting will begin in 15 minutes. "Perfect timing," Victor said, standing. "Naomi, I want you to join me. Observe, listen, and if you have something to say, don't hesitate." Naomi's eyes widened. Join you? In a board meeting? Exactly. Victor's tone was calm but unyielding. Your perspective is why you're here. Don't forget that. Naomi rose, her legs feeling a little unsteady, but her heart a little lighter. As she followed Victor out of the office, she felt a strange new sensation, something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Naomi's first board meeting was nothing like she had imagined. The room was a vast expanse of polished glass and steel, with a long table that seemed to stretch endlessly. The walls were lined with digital screens displaying graphs and figures Naomi barely understood, but she forced herself to stay calm. Victor had invited her here for a reason. She couldn't afford to let fear take over. Executives in tailored suits filled the seats, their sharp voices bouncing around the room as they debated quarterly earnings, strategic expansions, and market risks. Each voice was confident, each argument precise. Naomi listened, her gaze shifting from one face to another. Most of them were older, their expressions set with the certainty of experience. But she also saw a few younger faces eager, hungry, trying to prove themselves. Victor sat at the head of the table, a calm, steady presence in the storm of opinions. He didn't speak often, but when he did, the room fell silent. His words carried weight, each one measured, each one calculated. Naomi watched, trying to understand how he did it, how he commanded respect without raising his voice. Revenue is up by 12% this quarter, one of the senior executives announced, his voice edged with pride. But we need to consider reducing costs further. Outsourcing our production to Southeast Asia would save us millions annually. Naomi's stomach twisted. Even though she was just an observer, she could feel the weight of the decision. Jobs, lives, families, all being discussed like numbers on a spreadsheet. She saw a few executives nodding in agreement, already calculating the savings, but to her, it felt cold, ruthless. Is that our only option? She heard herself asking before she could stop. The room went silent. Dozens of eyes turned to her, some curious, others surprised, a few slightly annoyed. Naomi felt heat rising in her cheeks, but she didn't look away. Victor leaned back slightly, his expression calm. An excellent question. Naomi, care to elaborate? Naomi's throat felt dry, but she forced herself to speak. I wonder if there are other ways to save costs without hurting the people who rely on those jobs. Maybe efficiency improvements. Energy savings? Better vendor negotiations? A few executives exchanged skeptical glances, but Victor's gaze never wavered. A valid point. Mr. Langston, how much have we invested in process improvements this year? A balding man with a sharp jawline adjusted his glasses. We've made some investments, but nothing substantial. We've focused on reducing labor costs instead. Victor's expression remained neutral. Perhaps it's time we shift that focus. A company that saves by cutting people isn't truly saving. It's sacrificing. Let's explore alternative cost-saving measures without immediate layoffs. Naomi's heart pounded. Did she really just shift the direction of a major decision? But she saw the nods around the table, the way some of the executives seemed to be reconsidering. Maybe she had made a difference. The meeting continued, but now Victor occasionally glanced at Naomi, his faint smile a quiet encouragement. And when the meeting finally ended, she felt a mix of relief and disbelief. She had spoken up. She hadn't just been a silent observer. As the room emptied, Victor motioned for her to stay. Once they were alone, he leaned back in his chair, studying her. You did well, Naomi. I didn't mean to overstep, she stammered, suddenly feeling small again. You didn't, Victor assured her. Your perspective is exactly why I wanted you here. Don't ever doubt that. Naomi nodded, her chest swelling with a strange mix of pride and gratitude. But before she could say more, the door opened and Nora stepped in, her expression calm, but her eyes sharp. Mr. Harrington, the investors from Norwood Ventures are here, she announced. Ah, right on time. Victor stood, then looked at Naomi. Come with me. This will be another lesson. Naomi followed, her nerves still tingling. The next room was another impressive meeting space, this one smaller, but just as polished. 3 men in sleek suits rose to greet Victor, their smiles all sharp and practiced. Naomi recognized the look businessman with a hunger for profit. Introductions were exchanged, and the men immediately launched into their pitch. More investments, more expansions, higher returns. Their words flowed like honey, each one designed to charm, to persuade. But Naomi saw the subtle way Victor's expression barely changed, how he listened but didn't commit. After a while, one of the investors, a man named Stephen, leaned forward, his gaze shifting to Naomi. And who might this be? He asked, with a polite but slightly condescending smile. Victor's smile remained, but there was a subtle edge to it. This is Naomi Brooks, a new addition to my team. She's here to learn. Oh? Learning the ropes, are we? Stephen chuckled, his tone patronizing. Well, take notes, young lady. This is how the big leagues work. Naomi's cheeks flushed, but she kept her expression steady. Victor, however, leaned forward, his gaze sharpening. Miss Brooks doesn't need to take notes. She asks the right questions. Stephen's smile faltered just slightly. Victor continued. And if you gentlemen are truly interested in partnering with Harrington Enterprises, you should know that we don't invest in empty promises. We invest in people, people who understand integrity. Silence settled over the room. The investors exchanged uneasy glances. Victor's calm expression didn't change. Consider that before we discuss further. The meeting ended with polite goodbyes, but the investors left looking far less confident than when they had entered. Once they were gone, Naomi looked at Victor, her eyes wide. I didn't even say anything, she murmured. You didn't need to, Victor replied, his voice softer now. Sometimes presence is enough, and you have a presence, Naomi. People notice you. They just need to understand why they should respect you too. Naomi's heart pounded, but this time it wasn't from fear. It was something else. Something like hope. Something like possibility. Now let's get back to work, Victor added, turning with a faint smile. I have a feeling today is just the beginning. Naomi followed, her steps a little steadier, her gaze a little bolder. For the first time, she didn't just feel like an outsider in this world. She felt like she belonged. Naomi's success at the board meeting had given her a sense of confidence she hadn't felt in years, but with that confidence came new challenges. As she walked the polished marble floors of Harrington Enterprises, she couldn't help but notice the way some of her colleagues looked at her, curious, skeptical, and a few even resentful. She was the new face, the unexpected voice at the table, and not everyone was thrilled about it. Rumors began to swirl. Some whispered that she was just a charity case, a nobody Victor had taken pity on. Others hinted that she had some hidden leverage over him, a secret that explained her sudden rise. Naomi tried to ignore them, focusing instead on her work, but their words clung to her thoughts like shadows. One afternoon, as she was reviewing a proposal in the glass-walled meeting room, she heard a sharp knock. She looked up to see Nora, her expression unreadable as always. "Got a minute?" Nora asked, already stepping inside, without waiting for a reply. "Of course." Naomi closed the folder, setting it aside. Nora shut the door, her gaze cool and direct. "You're making waves, you know that?" Naomi's stomach tightened, but she kept her face calm. "I'm just doing my job." "That's the problem," Nora replied, crossing her arms. "People here aren't used to someone like you doing this kind of job. They're used to people like you being the ones fetching coffee, not making decisions." Naomi's jaw clenched. The words stung, but she wouldn't let it show. "And what about you, Nora? Do you think I don't belong here?" Nora's gaze softened just a fraction. "It doesn't matter what I think. It matters what you do, and right now, you're walking a fine line. You've got Victor's support, but that means you also have a target on your back." Naomi leaned back, folding her arms. "So what do you suggest? That I stay quiet? That I just fade into the background?" "No." Nora shook her head, a faint smile touching her lips. "I'm saying you need to be smart. Learn who your allies are. Understand who you can trust and who you can't." Naomi frowned. "And are you someone I can trust?" Nora didn't answer right away. She studied Naomi, her sharp gaze taking in every detail. Finally, she spoke. "I've been here a long time. I've seen a lot of people come and go. Most of them think they're invincible until they're not. But you're different. You're not just trying to climb the ladder. You actually care about what you do." "I care about making a difference," Naomi replied firmly. "Not just for myself, but for the people who never get a chance." Nora's smile widened slightly. "Good. Just remember, in this world, kindness can be a weapon or a weakness. Use it wisely." And with that, she turned and left, leaving Naomi alone with her thoughts. Nora's words echoed in her mind. She knew the woman wasn't just offering friendly advice, she was giving a warning, and Naomi couldn't afford to ignore it. Over the next few days, Naomi became more observant. She paid attention to the subtle dynamics in the office, the whispered conversations that stopped when she walked by, the lingering glances from certain executives, the quiet respect from a few others. She noticed how Victor's assistant, James, always seemed to know what was going on before anyone else did. How Helen, the head of PR, always smiled at her but never included her in important discussions. And how Thomas, the senior financial advisor, seemed to study her with a mix of curiosity and caution. But it wasn't long before the rumors took a darker turn. Someone had started spreading a story that Naomi had manipulated her way into her position, that she had used Victor's sympathy to secure her role. At first, she tried to brush it off. But then she noticed the way some of her colleagues avoided her, how they whispered just a little louder when she walked by. It all came to a head one morning when she entered the break room and found two junior analysts talking. They didn't see her at first. "I'm telling you, it's not normal. She just shows up, and suddenly she's at his side. No one gets that lucky. I heard she's got something on him. Maybe she threatened to expose something." Naomi felt a rush of heat in her chest. Before she could stop herself, she cleared her throat. The analysts turned, their faces paling. "I don't know what you've heard," Naomi said, her voice steady but sharp, "but I got this position because I earned it. If you have any questions about my qualifications, feel free to ask me directly. Otherwise, maybe you should focus on your own work." The analyst stammered apologies, quickly retreating. But the anger in Naomi's chest didn't fade. It wasn't just about the rumors, it was about the constant feeling of having to prove herself, of always being questioned, always being doubted. When she returned to her office, she found Victor waiting for her, his expression calm but serious. "I heard about the incident in the break room," he said. Naomi's heart sank. "I'm sorry, I shouldn't have let them get to me." Victor raised a hand. "Don't apologize. You stood up for yourself. That's important. But you should also know this won't be the last time." Naomi leaned against her desk, the weight of it all pressing down on her. I thought once I proved myself, they'd see me for who I am." "They will," Victor replied. "But some people will always be threatened by someone who doesn't fit their idea of who belongs. The question is, will you let them win?" Naomi met his gaze, the fire in her chest burning a little brighter. "No, I won't," Victor smiled, the faintest hint of pride in his eyes. "Good. Now get back to work. I have a feeling you're going to show them exactly why you belong here." Naomi watched him leave, her determination hardening. If they wanted to doubt her, fine. She would make sure her actions spoke louder than any rumor. She wasn't just here because of Victor. She was here because she deserved to be. And she would prove it, no matter what it took. Naomi's journey at Harrington Enterprises had been anything but easy. From her humble beginnings at the diner to the polished hallways of the corporate world, she had learned to fight for her place, to stand her ground. But as she stepped into the boardroom that morning, she felt a familiar knot of anxiety tightening in her chest. The board members were already seated, their faces a mix of skepticism and mild interest. Victor Harrington sat at the head of the table, his calm gaze a silent reassurance. Naomi took a deep breath, clutching the stack of folders in her hands. "Thank you all for being here," she began, her voice steady despite the racing of her heart. "I've prepared a proposal that I believe will not only increase our profit margins, but also strengthen our reputation as a socially responsible corporation." One of the older board members, Mr. Caldwell, leaned back in his chair, a faint smile playing at his lips. "Social responsibility? That sounds like a nice slogan, Mrs. Evans. But we're here to make money." Naomi met his gaze, unflinching. "And that's exactly what this will do. By investing in sustainable sourcing and ethical labor practices, we can not only reduce costs in the long term, but also attract clients who prioritize corporate integrity." Another member, Mrs. Parker, arched an eyebrow. "And what makes you think our clients care about that?" "Because I've spoken to them," Naomi replied, without missing a beat. "And they've made it clear that they're looking for partners who align with their values. If we don't adapt, we risk losing their business." The room fell quiet. Naomi pressed on, flipping open the first folder and passing out copies of her proposal. This plan outlines a phased approach. We begin by transitioning our supply chain to verified ethical sources, starting with our primary manufacturing partners. In the second phase, we implement a workforce development program that provides training and education for underprivileged communities. "And what's the cost?" Mr. Caldwell challenged, his fingers tapping against the table. "At first, it may seem higher than traditional methods," Naomi admitted, "but the long-term savings from reduced turnover, improved brand loyalty, and expanded market access will more than make up for it. Our research shows a projected 15% increase in client retention and a 20% boost in overall revenue within 2 years. Victor leaned forward, his expression unreadable. Naomi, what inspired you to pursue this approach? Naomi hesitated for just a moment, then spoke with quiet conviction. I've seen what it's like to be forgotten, to work hard and still struggle, to have your efforts overlooked because of where you come from or what you look like. This isn't just about profit. It's about proving that a company can succeed without stepping on the people who build it. There was a pause, the weight of her words settling over the room. Some of the board members shifted uncomfortably. Others leaned in, intrigued. Mr. Caldwell chuckled, though his smile was a little less smug. Idealism is a fine thing, Ms. Evans, but in this world, money talks. Naomi didn't flinch, and people listen. Which is why our brand will speak louder than ever with this initiative. We'll be known not just for our products, but for the values we stand for. Victor's eyes softened just slightly. Thank you, Naomi. We'll review your proposal and make a decision. Naomi nodded, gathering her materials and stepping out of the room. As the door closed behind her, she leaned against the wall, exhaling a shaky breath. She had given it her all. Whether they accepted it or not was beyond her control. Later that evening, as she sat at her desk, a soft chime sounded, an email notification. Subject, proposal review. Naomi hesitated before opening it. Her heart raced as she scanned the text. Naomi, the board has approved your proposal. We're moving forward with the initiative. Congratulations. Victor Harrington. A rush of relief washed over her, followed by a swell of pride. She had done it. Against the odds, against the whispers and the doubts, she had made a difference. But even as joy filled her chest, another realization settled in. This was just the beginning. Changing a company's direction wasn't a one-time event, it was a constant fight, and Naomi was ready for it. The next day, she was called into Victor's office. He stood by the window, looking out at the city skyline. When she entered, he turned, a rare smile on his face. I knew you had it in you, he said. Most people talk about change. You made it happen. Naomi smiled, but there was a hint of steel in her voice. I did what I believed was right, and I'll keep doing it. Victor nodded, a spark of admiration in his eyes. That's exactly why I want you to lead this initiative. Full control. Build the team, set the goals. Make it your own. Naomi's breath caught. You're serious? Very. He extended his hand. Congratulations, Director Evans. As she shook his hand, Naomi felt a rush of emotion. She had fought so hard to get here, to be seen, to be heard. And now, she was more than just a voice in the room. She was a leader. Walking out of his office, Naomi looked out over the bustling city below. It was the same city she had once struggled to survive in. But now, it was her city. Her world. And she wasn't just surviving anymore, she was changing it. In life, it's easy to become consumed by our struggles and challenges, but true strength is revealed in how we treat others, even when we have little ourselves. Naomi's story is a testament to the transformative power of kindness and resilience. Despite her humble beginnings, she never lost her compassion, offering help without expecting anything in return. Her simple act of kindness to a young boy not only changed his life, but also opened doors she never imagined. But it wasn't just kindness that defined Naomi, it was her unwavering determination. Even when faced with prejudice, betrayal, and the overwhelming world of corporate power, she stood firm in her values. She didn't just survive, she thrived, proving that integrity and hard work can pave the way to success. This story reminds us that kindness is not a weakness, but a strength. It is a seed that, when sown, can grow into opportunities and change lives, including our own. No matter our age or situation, it is never too late to choose compassion, to fight for what is right, and to believe in the impact of a single good deed.